I really want to be careful that anybody listening right now really understands this is not a right and left issue. This is a question about, this is not a political issue, even though it's been incredibly politicized. Maybe there should be political conversation about it. I'm not saying that, but it is not a political issue in my mind. And here's why. Um, I think we have to go back to our definition of what education is all about. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Anybody who knows any just basic history knows that education in America started just as simply as this. People were taught to read so that they could read the Bible, so that they could go home, take a Bible, and they could read it for themselves. Now, thankfully, it's evolved beyond that, and education has taken on new disciplines, and we're all the better for that. But something else has happened as education has evolved. And I saw this on scholastic.com. I saw this on the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, as well as study.com, that the definition for education has evolved to the point where now the educational world thinks it's their role to help create good citizens. Now, that may sound innocent enough, but the reality is I think that ultimately what they're talking about there and what we're seeing is that now the education system and the public education system is creating morality. Now, that was typically resigned to the church, and I think that that's permissible because it is the parents' decision whether or not they take their kids to church. But ultimately, I think it goes even back to a more basic tenet, which is this: is that parents are the ones who are uniquely qualified to teach their kids morality, not the education system. Now, I know why the education system did it, probably because parents were not doing it. They were not fulfilling their role of helping their kids become better citizens. But I still think the problem exists, is that education professionals, teachers, are not uniquely qualified as parents are to help their kids become moral, thinking, good human beings. That is the role of the nuclear family, which, by the way, I think is so very interesting that that they're calling the idea of the nuclear family a white supremacist idea, and something that, even though BLM has taken it off their website because they got a bunch of heat for it, it's still something they believe in, the destruction of the nuclear
The
family.
traditional family.
Yeah. So, what is your take on the education system, what it's really supposed to be doing instead of what it is presently doing?
I have no problem with the issue of, developing a good citizen or whatever they define it. You know what the problem is how they define it. Yeah. And whose role to do what. It's the same with, we are all for equity. We are all for diversity. We're all for inclusivity. But according to their dictionary, it's literally the opposite meaning. They talk about being anti-racist, but they're actually racist. Yeah. What Martin Luther King Jr. talked about is anti-racism. What the teacher unions today and the BLM and all those people on that side of the argument is bringing to our school is actually racism. They call it anti-racism, but it's actually racism. Yeah. They hijack the dictionary, they redefine the word. So it's again with what does it mean to be a good citizen? According to their definition, which usually it's the opposite of what good citizen means. So here we have to be really very specific and look at the details, not be caught up with the title. Indeed, in 1979, the Department of Education was created. When it was created, if you look back and look at what it's written specifically in that act, it says that the primary responsibility for educating the children is the parents. It says the parents have the primary responsibility for the education of the children, and the state and localities have the responsibility to support the parents in that role. What's happening today is totally the opposite. The school have been hijacked. Our kids have been literally kidnapped, and they are a captive audience in those schools. The parents, indeed, you said it in one of your statements, for many different reasons, and we can get into some of them. But parents almost like withdrew. I'm not saying all, because there are parents who do homeschooling and parents that are involved, but to a large extent, there was such a big trust in the schools, in the teachers, that they have the best interests of our kids, that trust actually let us pull back and not be involved enough. And what you have seen usually in schools, the parents' kind of involvement in school is fundraising for the kid, for the school, doing social event like the social dancing, events for the kids, or doing this sale of gift paper wrapping for Christmas and cards. That's what school. What that's what the involvement of parents, was reduced to. And now, when parents started realizing of what's happening in the school, much of it thanks to the Zoom calls, which was imposed on all of us through the COVID-19 restrictions, they've been horrified. But again, here, the school, the teachers union barged into a very much open door and has been transforming our school gradually, as parents has been really sitting back and realizing that now that it's almost like a total transformation. However, that's really, if I look at what our really goal, the primary goal, and I said it in our documents, is to get parents back into getting involved with the education of their children. They can no longer, the trust has been broken. The parents' trust in the school and the school system has been broken. And in fact, you said that you are conservative. In fact, what has been happening in school boards, those are the entities that make the decision about the curriculum that are eventually being implemented in school. The school board has been totally dominated by Democrats and by people on the very left side, even of the Democrat Party. And during election time for board members, even I would confess for myself, I didn't know who's running. I didn't know anything about it. I was so consumed with the education of my kids on a very personal level, but never really realizing even the role of the school board in determining what my kids are going to be consumed and what kind of brainwash is going in schools. So that's where, as I said, parents have not been taking the role. And that's what I'm doing in my movement, trying to mobilize and empower parents and teach them how to get involved, how to get control back of what the kids are being taught. Remember, we are the taxpayers. It's our money. It's the absurdity is taking our money and turning our kids against us. They are breaking families because we are hearing from a lot of parents who kids already graduated, even college. They're coming crying to us. I lost my kid. It was a good kid. I taught them good values as long as they were at home. And then they are gone. And there are a lot of parents with very tense relationship with kids or no relationship at all.
Yeah.
We would like to prevent it. Remember what Lenin said, give me your kids for 8 years and I'll turn them into good Bolsheviks.
Catch new episodes of Indie Thinker with Reed Uberman for free right now by going to YouTube or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Simply type Indie Thinker with Reed Uberman in the search bar and click on my face. Don't forget to like, rate, and subscribe to stay informed when a new episode drops.